Lost Ruins of Arnak, a great success. Nominated for Kennerspiel, sadly not won, but still very successful for us.
Since I've been with the company, I think the biggest milestone has been kind of the success of Lost Ruins of Arnak.
Lost Ruins of Arnak launched in 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic, and that was not an easy decision. But the game was an immediate success and has a very dedicated following since its release.
The Lost Ruins of Arnak has also had a huge impact on me as a designer and as a publisher, both in terms of the components, how beautiful the game is, how well the expansion is, the first expansion to the game, and also when I was designing Expeditions, the sequel to Scythe, I constantly had to look at Lost Ruins of Arnak at just how good it is at implementing the sense of discovery and exploration and a little bit of danger in terms of the monsters that you encounter along the way and the fear of getting fear cards in your deck. I still come back to Arnak and love Arnak and continue to play it as a wonderful game of exploration and engine building and just to capture that feel of being Indiana Jones out in the wild trying to discover the next step in the forest, in the jungle.
That is a game that every time I play it, I immediately want to play it again. I think I can do this better. I think I can do that part better. I want to try all the exploring, or I want to try mostly research, and just trying all these different strategy combinations. That's like, I could sit there and I can play that game over and over and over and over and over and not get bored with it.
As it is designed as a whole, it's like you see sometimes with little things, everything needs to be on the right spot, and when it perfectly fits together, and that seems to be the case for Arnak, and it works. It is like food. It is no new component of food in there. It's all ingredients are known, not all of them, but most of the ingredients are known. But it is so on point on everything that it is a perfect dish. Yeah.
It seems that Arnak is a perfect example of a harmonious blend of success factors, also considering that this was the first game of Min and Elwen, the designer couple of the game.
We tried to design games with Min even before, and this was actually her idea to try to combine the deck building and worker placement, just to see, because those are two mechanisms that we really like. And so we tried how that could work. We thought it can be almost impossible.
The idea was of combining deck building and worker placement was with us for some time, for actually many years, but we never really got the energy to actually get to it and do something about it. But then when I was pregnant with my last child, I kind of had this moment when I was like, okay, I know when he's born, I won't be sleeping anymore. So it's like, I have to do something now because now I have time. So we just started working on it and it all clicked amazingly well, really fast. So we were able to show the prototype pretty soon and people loved it. So we kind of decided, okay, we have to finish it. So that's how. And the vision was basically to make a game that we would enjoy, that we would like to play and test, and something that we kind of were looking for, but it didn't exist.
Arnak originally was named by them lore hunters, and I remember it from one Czech gaming. People who were there actually tried it and told me yeah, this is a game which I feel CGE should release.
The first phase of us just prototyping took about almost a year, and then there was almost another year of working on it with CGE, trying to really develop the game and play test it and do all the small details up to even the illustrations. That was a huge part of our work, was just basically make up how the illustrations should look like and communicate with the people illustrating it and really making it feel coherent.
CGE invested significantly more on the art of this project compared to other games, having many different illustrators and graphic designers specializing in different areas.
When I met for the first time with Elwen, he bring the prototype. We played it. That the game really hit me. The feeling, he spoke the one specific word, It's not like Indiana Jones. You do not go and steal there or grab it or take it by the force, like pull it from the environment. You go and sensibly try to understand and research the culture and the structures and the whole island like that. So I was captivated by that.
The prototype was basically, there was no map, it was only tiles laid one by another. Right away I knew that, or I felt that the game would really benefit from visually displaying the whole continent there is to explore. You know, probably because I was kind of influenced a lot by Seventh Continent, a board game which I really like. And to me, it had kind of the same vibe, the same feeling. You know, you're exploring this new continent, pre-technology, pre-wireless communication, pre-radio communication. You know, in these old times when the messages had to be transmitted through pigeons or, you know, ships or stuff like that. You know, I always like this challenge when you have to connect something existing with something supernatural, like, you know, alternative history, maybe something like that. It's, you know, it's simple to create fantasy, but if you know, connect it with, if you connect it with more recent mankind history, it can get much more interesting.
For me, among other things, it was the art style, because especially Ondra Hrdina created such a beautiful place to explore.
Like every illustrator puts so much work into the game.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of things that they created and how they thought about it. And also, like, Min, she created a really interesting backstory to the whole world.
Also the language.
The language,
it actually
yes.
works.
Yes.
It was more involved, more thought through, and it shows in the end, even though it's not the main part of the game by far.
There was this period where me and Jakub Politzer and Min Elwen worked on the world building. I tried to model the geologic history of the island and what kind of lands and rocks there would be, and they also wanted our input on, like, the story and what the civilization would look like. We just had a lot of ideas about how the civilization worked, if what kind of, like, magic there was, what they were doing and what happened to them.
The wholesome experience has some feeling of complexity, and it's whole. It's not hollow. It's filled with the story. It's filled with the background. When you go through the ruins, even in the forest or old castle, you feel the history. You feel something happened here. And that is the point we want to have in the game. There was the civilization, they had their culture, they had their meaning and style of the life, they behaved that way, and you should respect that. And the whole game, you should feel that from the game. Like you explore, you enjoy what you see, what you play, everything from the smallest item and from the greatest items or buildings. It should have one style, one story.
Again, there was quite a lot of crunch time at the end of the summer. I remember that I stayed up working on the map for like 2 nights in a row because it was so big, and I really underestimated the time it would take to get it finished to the detail that we wanted. And then I had to do like this whole other version on the other side that had like stormy skies and the volcano erupting. Yeah, I think I finished like at 3 a.m. after a few days, and right the morning after it went to print or something, and Elwen was all like very thankful and praising me. And yeah, it was like we were all in this kind of war against time.
In 2021, the first expansion of the game was released with 6 unique leaders and the element of asymmetric gameplay.
Well, with the first expansion, we really wanted to explore making the game more interesting for people who have played it a bit, adding another layer, and the different characters seemed like the best way to achieve that. And also the vision was to make it as seamless as possible to start to play. Like, you can basically just take this expansion and add most of the stuff, maybe learn that a bit, and then if you want to play with a leader, you just learn the rules for the concrete leader. Or if you want to play with a new research track, you just look at the rules for the research track, and it's like you don't have to learn the entire rule book for the expansion. And we really like that aspect of the expansion. So the vision was make it as effortless as possible and add as much as possible as well. So I think I really like the expansion. I think it really worked.
To balance and develop the leaders, the key element was extensive and relentless playtesting.
So we kind of gathered together all the best players back then, like, because the game was available on Board Game Arena, and there was already a pretty established fan base or player base, and we kind of cherry-picked those best players from there. And so we've been kind of, when we've been playtesting the game, we've been able to play against those very skilled players, and I really enjoyed that.
And it was really nice just to see the people so passionate about the game that they spent a lot of time and energy playing it, and giving the feedback and breaking the leaders, because that's what playtesting is about, right? You want to expose their weaknesses and break the leaders so that suddenly somebody got like tons of points, and we had to like think about how to nerf the leader.
I think the most fun moment was when we realized there were really many people who probably now play Arnak better than us. There's different difficulty settings in the game, so we're trying to make it like the basic setting is for a normal player, and we're trying to make like a almost unbeatable hard difficulty, and they were able to beat that. And we're like, okay, wow, that's an achievement. We are really grateful to all the people testing the game, because our design process relies on testing the game heavily. So we usually tend to make it work, test it ourselves, but then the fine-tuning is really dependent on people's feedback and feelings about the game, and you really try to address things that kind of feel off to the players. So that's valuable to us.
I am so incredibly proud of Elwen and Min. It's like, it's their first project, they're big board gamers at heart. Their first game, and it's so good, so incredibly good. The flow of the game is beautifully done, because of that staff and everything. Like, you don't notice that much, but the game runs so smoothly and nicely. And they got nominated for Spiel. I remember, like, I at some point was messaging Elwen because I learned about the fact that, they got nominated for Spiel. And I just messaged him like, this is so amazing. Like, I can't imagine how this is for you. You know, your first game, you poured your soul into this. Like, they were working so hard on that, and they still are with expansions and stuff.
Lately, I think Arnak is one of my favorite CG games. I play it a lot. It really surprised me how good it was. And Elwen worked on Sanctum with me as well. So I kind of know the guy behind it, and he's really good. He and Min did a great job.
It was such a strong moment when, after all the COVID restriction, we were able to meet in Essen, and we actually saw, it was one of the first moments we saw people playing Lost Ruins of Arnak on tables. Because before that we knew the game was popular, but we just didn't see people playing it. And suddenly seeing so many fans just playing it there, that was very strong for us.
Well, I remember we were watching like every single review that came out. Some of them were like very negative, some were really positive. Some people mentioned this is like instant classic, some were like it's so imbalanced. And it was like the first reviews, and we were like sitting there watching every single one of them in German, translating them, you know. And I think first time I realized something was happening was when it started climbing in the BGG rating. So we were sitting there watching Board Game Geek, and we're like, okay, will we ever reach 100, you know? That was like our, you know, goal, maybe one day get there. And then it started moving up even there, and we're like, wow, okay, we've succeeded.
Everything worked really well, and to my surprise, after Codenames, it is actually, after all variants of Codenames, it is actually our most sold game. So I would not expect it in the beginning, and especially not when, you know, it's one of the more expensive of our games. I believe that only, if we are counting only regular games and not some special editions, only Through the Ages is more expensive than Arnak. So that's, in my views, accomplishment. And then later, when we did Arnak expansion, I think how Elwen and Min approached it is really, really great. And it pretty shows with the sales, because normally when you are doing expansions, it's usually between 1 to 4, 1 to 5 amount of sold base games to expansions. And here it's nearly half of expansions compared to amount of base games. So it's surprising, but really nice surprise.
And the second expansion came out in 2023 after years in development, as it was also loaded with lots of new content.
With the second expansion, the vision changed over time. So originally we were thinking of just maybe taking the print and play expansion and just, you know, putting it in a box. But then we started thinking we should really make this as good as possible. So we basically redone every illustration in the game. We've redone every single card effect. And the story also changed, and the little twist changed. We added a metagame, and then we were like, okay, if we are doing it this way, maybe we should include new leaders as well, so it's like a complete experience, and you can play the campaign. Since it's like a cooperative game, you will have 2 new leaders that you can play with. And then we were like, okay, but then maybe the 2 new chapters that we are adding should have some special research tech as well. So we kept adding and adding onto it and making it more and more of a real, like it's now on par with the first expansion. Maybe, I think the amount of work that went into that was like 4 times as much, I think. I would just guess there's really a huge amount of time spent on this expansion, making it as good as possible.
Almost 15 years after its release, that was also the foundation of the company, CG released an improved and relaunched version of the classic Galaxy Tracker.
Galaxy Tracker is a special game for me and for the company, because we started with it, yeah. And only few games got so much care over the years as Galaxy Tracker. We created lots of expansions. It was the first game we picked to implement as an application, and it was always a game that I was like always willing to play. On a gaming event, it was 4 a.m. Everyone was sleeping and going to sleep, and then someone said just for fun, "Let's play a Galaxy Tracker." Okay, this challenge cannot be refused. But when we started the company, we didn't know exactly how to produce games. So all this experience we gathered over years, we now put to a new version. Now it's really visible because the game has nicer arts, some good components, and still is much cheaper than it was the original version of Galaxy Tracker. So, and there was also some design changes to make it more approachable and fine-tuning stuff and so on. So I'm really glad that this happened, and we kind of are giving more polish to things that we polished as well as we could at that moment. But now our experience and power is bigger, so we can do it even better.
And also creating that XXL version for events.
Yes.
Because that's awesome.
That's a lot of fun. Yeah, the giant Galaxy Tracker that we had, the Gen Con.
Actually.
Yeah, the Spiel and the PAX. That's a lot of fun, and it's a lot of running around.
It's quite gigantic because the tile is like this big.
Oh yeah, and the aliens are like this. They're really cute. You want them home.
Up until today, CG continues to release only 1 or 2 new games per year, trying out new concepts and ideas. In 2021, Starship Captains was brought to life, a crew-building Euro with the most colorful space universe. And of course, an asymmetric game for exactly 4 players, featuring anonymous trading of resources and parts of a soul. What other game could it be but Deal with the Devil, one of CG's most unique games?
We felt that it brings something really unique to board game space, something which was not done before. And we felt that it's really important that a game like this will be created, because that can also ignite creativity of somebody else to actually use something from this game and make something new, better, interesting. So we decided that we will do it anyway.
And the latest release, Kutna Hora, also follows those footsteps, bringing a historic city-building Euro with dynamic and deeply interactive economy. So that has been the story of CG so far, and as we're nearing the end of this docuseries, you might be wondering, what do all of the CG games have in common, and what's the secret ingredient?
We do publish games that we like. We don't do games that nobody in CG cares about, because that wouldn't work. We have to have at least some people that will be working on that game has to have passion. They have to really like that game, because they will be working heavily on it for following few months or years, depending. And that's a really important factor, because it's a passion or love project in the end.
I mean, yeah, you would have expected, that quite often people, after they finish the project, are like, oh yeah, I don't want to see the project anymore. But the people here, they come back to those games and we play them, we enjoy them even after, working on them. Because everybody in the company, I think they want to create the games that they eventually would themselves like to play. And that's really visible, I think, in the project.
So in the end, it all comes down back to CG people.
Yeah.
With all the good and bad.
I think the magic sauce behind CG is the team. Everybody's like really committed to their work. Everybody's really talented at what they do, and that's the kind of the secret sauce of CG is the people.
I mean, there's like people who are just normal, yeah, but normal is very close to boring. And I can say that nearly everyone from CG I know is not normal. I mean, you judge a company by the games at this time, yeah? So I always thought like, we were doing things others don't. So I liked the experimental style, yeah? And that's mostly, it came from the games. After meeting the people, we confirmed this is really the case. Weird people, but great people, yeah?
CG doesn't do what all the other companies do. CG does something different. Sometimes that's like irritating because you sit there and you're like, these are best practices, or this is how why do I have to defend or like this concept? But then you sit there and you're like, okay, it's not really defending or going against the best practices. It's kind of just figuring out why this is done and can it be done better.
It's still about trying to do new things, going against, what you'd consider already proven mechanics or tried things, and just trying something crazy new, and that's still happening. I mean, look at the latest releases by CGE. It's still like crazy ideas, which maybe this will not really, sell that well, but it's a really cool board game that should be available to people to get, and that's still the idea of CG, right?
The team sits there and talks about, and you get a lot of different opinions on different things. On pretty much every aspect of the company, there's a lot of discussion, a lot of thought goes into each thing, and really the company, unless something is ready, they're not going to do anything about it. So there's not going to be this rush of we're going to put out an inferior product. The company is going to consider as many aspects of this as possible before moving forward. And that can be frustrating at times, but at the same time, I feel it's led to the success of the company. So I wouldn't have it any other way. Sometimes I'd like everybody to agree about things more, but that's kind of life.
I hope that CGE will continue doing games which are worth doing, rather than doing another average game and too many of those. Rather doing just few games which will work well. Of course, I don't expect that every single of our game will resonate with other people as well as, for example, Arnak did or Codenames did. I don't have such expectations, but it would be nice to have games which will resonate with people, at least from time to time. Generally, I would like to continue doing it kind of similar way how we are doing it. Of course, we will learn. We over time are finding that some things are not as working as we hoped that they are working, so improve those things, but doing it more like community rather than just company focused just on profit is something I would like to continue to do.